Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the lost episodes of the RNG Podcast. Okay, what you're about to witness is dated. It's like fine wine. We've hid it from you for several years now.
We've let it age.
Decades. Yeah. This was shot decades ago. This is old but beautiful footage of Uncle Dane, Grizzly Berry, the man, the boy himself, at the boy's house recording a podcast. It's fantastic. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Grizz, you want to say anything else about this?
No, not really. You got it covered. Right. Hope you guys are enjoying your holiday season.
Oh, and I forgot about that. Yeah, enjoy the holidays. Yeah.
We'll catch you next week with a fresh episode in the year 2020.
Woo, let's go 2020.
Hey everybody, Grizz here. I'm editing the podcast right now, and I noticed that we didn't mention anything about the camera issues. So if the conversation seems to jump around a little bit, it's because the cameras kept shutting off when we were recording, and we had to start them back up again. So we apologize if it's kind of tough to follow the conversation at some points, but we hope you guys enjoy the video regardless. So here it is.
Well, Dane, welcome to the podcast. Now, look, here's the thing. So, on my previous episodes, we're doing like a live action episode. You see
live
this?
action.
Listen, live action.
Yeah. Action.
Bringing you brand new podcast video material. Point at it.
Let them know.
Let them know. Dude, so the best part about this whole trip is that Dylan over here, he competed yesterday at Genesis. It's the first time I've been to like an actual fighting game convention.
Yeah?
First time, never been.
I think me too. I've been to conventions before, but I've never been to I don't think I've been to like a fighting game convention.
It was cool, man.
The closest thing that we've been to is I think Rewind, right?
Yeah, I think Rewind.
Yeah, that was the only like competitive LAN
experience.
I mean for the most part every Smash tournament is a LAN.
Yeah.
They have to be.
I was gonna say they're all LANs, I think.
Although I think they had an online Smash tournament pretty recently, right?
They're working on it right now. They're doing like qualifiers basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can go and if you win, I think they're taking like 12 people or something like that, and then they go to PAX East.
Ooh, and they're having a live tournament there.
Yes.
They're flying them out?
Yeah, they're flying them out. Flying them out, they pay for the flight and hotel. I think that's it.
Nice.
And you get into PAX. So.
What's the prize pool? Is it like pretty big for like the big time dudes?
They haven't said if there is a prize pool. I think it's legit. You're just going out to PAX.
Okay.
I think they just pay for you to go to PAX, and you play in a tournament. And if you win, you probably get like a Nintendo Switch or something. I don't know.
There's no prize pool?
I doubt they give you money. It's Nintendo.
I mean, but
they don't.
I know, but
they should have a prize pool.
They're
right?
starting to like really make that game. I mean, if they really want to start making that game competitive, then they got to start adding prize pools and stuff, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like they don't. Even with Smash 4, they never did like a Nintendo-sponsored tournament. You know?
Really?
Like since Smash is so grassroots, they already have like a circuit basically.
Yeah.
And you have the big tournaments, and Nintendo will sponsor those tournaments, but they've never done like a Nintendo sponsor, like just mainly Nintendo hosts it, I guess.
I know, but what do you mean by sponsor?
Like
nobody, fund?
Yeah, nobody really knows. it's like they don't say anything. Like sometimes they'll provide consoles and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
But nobody really knows.
That's not really a sponsor.
Yeah. That's not really a sponsor. Yeah, that's like,
for me, a sponsor is like, we gave you guys like
money for the prize pool.
We gave you guys money for the prize pool, or at the very least, money to fund the production, right?
Yeah.
That's like playing like League of Legends professionally, and then them giving you skins if you win. Yeah. Like then. Like, what's the point?
Nintendo's like we were talking earlier. They're like very like old school, but they've said like with Smash, since it's such a grassroots thing, they don't want to take that away from the community. Is what they've said.
But for Melee.
Yeah.
But I kind of assumed with how it seems like Ultimate is leaning towards being more competitive that they would like try and help a little bit more.
A little bit of money, dude.
A little bit.
$5,000?
Well, I mean, you just have to remember like they never do what makes sense, right? It's
like if they make good games, that makes sense to me.
That's about like the extent. That's like the extent of their good practices. Like, they make really good games, but as far as like the online system and competitiveness or like competitive gaming, it's like.
Well, you guys were saying this earlier. When you buy the Switch, it's like the friend code system. You're saying it's not like as good.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because like.
How does it work?
Like, imagine if in order to add you on Steam, I had to send you like an 8-digit number.
Yeah.
And then in order for you to add me back, you had to send me your 8-digit number.
That's how that
Does that
works?
sound fun?
That's
It's like a
horrible.
phone
How about I
number.
just click a button when I
Add
see your
friend.
name? When I look,
That's
I
it.
type in Raja on Steam.
That's it.
Your name comes up along with a bunch of scammers, and then I click add,
Right.
and then you get a friend request.
So, but
What
then-
is so hard about that, Nintendo?
Why do they
No,
have a number
seriously.
system? I don't understand. So like,
I don't know
is each
either.
Nobody
person-
knows. Like that's how they've
it doesn't make
always
any
done
sense.
They
it.
don't talk about this shit. They don't like have.
They
a
do,
blog
but they
post?
say it in Japanese. No one can understand them.
Okay, Google translates a thing. What do you mean? We can't translate.
No, it's a foreign language. Literally, no
I
one
think-
speaks it.
I think like this is like the terrible reason, but I think this might be the reason they do it. Is like literally my name on my Switch is just Dylan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like, but that's different
that's
than what
how-
my Nintendo account name is.
No, that's what I'm saying. Why don't they just make it sync with the Nintendo account? Because
Right.
obviously you can't have the same Nintendo account name
Yeah.
as somebody else.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Dude, Blizzard
Just
does
like
that
how
right,
all
though.
usernames work.
Right. Yeah.
This isn't a new concept.
exactly.
Like I said,
I don't
it's
understand.
it's like they're 10 years behind on most
Yeah.
things online related. So
And
it's just
sometimes
a-
even more.
More.
sometimes 11.
Nobody has ever done like a phone number for a console except for Nintendo.
Yeah, that is kind
That's
of weird.
basic.
Yeah.
But like on the DS, like when the DS first came out, they had different friend codes for every game.
Yeah.
It wasn't just one for your system. It was one for the entire.
What's
like,
the point of
every
that
game.
though? What like did they?
I don't know. Nobody knows. They're crazy.
Genius in one area, dumb in another.
Yeah.
You know,
Dumb in a
basically.
lot. Like that's.
Basically.
Or maybe
That's
it's
not a
that.
lot.
I
I
don't
mean,
know if that's.
I think that's their main
else.
weakness, but there might be other ones. I'm not
Yeah.
a big. I mean, like, I'm not. I consider myself a fan of Nintendo games, but I'm not. I don't know.
They make good games.
Yeah.
They do.
It's like Valve in a way. It's like they don't have. They need the other like pieces. Of
They're
the
strong
puzzle
in
that
one
they
area, really weak in another.
Mm-hmm.
They're strong in making games 10, 11 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and weak in making games today.
yeah, and talking about why they're weak
And
or how it's weak.
having some sort of communication at all,
No bridge, no communication.
locking themselves in their closets, refusing to come out.
I think it's kind of selfish. Listen. All right, listen. I get it. No, I understand what Gabe is trying to do. Like you said it earlier. Like he wants a nerd club. He wants like the.
He wants a club of people who don't necessarily have content or like community manager skills,
Right.
but are good at making games or working on whatever they got to work on.
Right.
So whenever they hire people, they're not looking for someone who can speak to the public. They're looking for someone who can code,
See,
who can make a game.
I'm good with that. No,
Not a game, but VR.
VR.
Or, some card game that dies immediately.
Yikes.
Is that came out already? Is that what you guys were talking about earlier?
That's.
Has like
Yeah,
3,000 players.
that's what's funny is that you don't even know
I
that
didn't
it
know it
came
came
out.
out.
But you
yet.
know it died though.
I didn't know it died. I didn't know it came
okay.
out. Or
It
died.
came out.
Artifact?
People got pissed off because it was a $20 game with microtransactions, and you literally imagine if you were playing Hearthstone. Have you played Hearthstone before? Imagine if you were playing Hearthstone, and they gave you 10 packs, and then the cards you get from those packs are the only cards you can use unless you buy more packs. You don't get. There's no progression system. Like you don't get to unlock a new pack for completing the game. You literally have to buy new packs.
They had no way to grind it out.
No.
What's the point of that? Why,
That's
oh my
I feel like
God.
that's 101
That's horrible.
Yeah.
of that
What?
system. Is,
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a bad idea.
Like the only way a free to
And they
play
might
game
fix it.
Yeah, the only way a free to play
might.
game works
I guarantee.
is if there's a way to get everything in the game for free as well. Like even if you have to
Exactly.
grind it out,
Yeah, it's
like
grind
it's basically,
versus
pay to win.
League does
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
well. League does
Yeah.
it really well.
yeah. So it's
Or
literally pay to win after already paying to play.
That's crazy.
Pay to play, pay to win.
Pay some more.
More like no, thank you. I'm not going to do
yeah,
that.
that's
Am
actually
I right?
Doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah, right? Yeah. Viewers, I hope you're with them. They're like all whales. They don't even understand.
Like, what are you talking about?
Dropping $5,000 on an artifact.
But that's the thing is that's the unfortunate thing is that there are going to be people who are going to
a
support that
niche.
game single-handedly.
That's crazy how 3 or 4
It's
whales.
the
can just-
80-20 thing. You know
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that? There's
20%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Somebody explain.
I don't know.
I think the
talking
thing is that 80% of the profits come from 20% of the player base.
Yeah.
That's basically that's around the percentage that it works out for when with those kinds of games, which is insane to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They said it applies to a bunch of different things like the 80-20.
Oh yeah, I think there's a book on that. I wanted to read
The
that.
80-20 principle.
Yeah.
It's called the Pareto principle.
What's it called?
Pareto, I think.
Pareto.
I'm not sure if I'm
Let's
pronouncing
just
it right.
call it the 80-20.
You can call it the
80-20.
80-20. That's the name of the guy who came up with it. So.
Okay, wait. So just going back real quick. So what I was saying earlier with like Valve having those like people that are really passionate over anything else, I think that's cool. I respect that. Like for Team Fortress 2, like specifically, I respect that there's like these devs. But I guess my thing is like, you gotta evolve. Like you gotta do so. You got. I mean, like it's selfish. I think it's selfish in that you're just cornering the creativity to these like 2 or 3 people. But it's almost selfish where you've built this community of other creators who are equally like-minded, want to build, but then you can't. Like there's no like bridge between like going back and forth. I don't know.
I just think it's an issue of being outdated and old. Like they're stuck in the past and they don't necessarily want to change their ways because to them it's been working. They're still raking in money, so why would they change
They're
their
still
ways?
living in 2007. So.
I mean, but the thing is, it's like it's the whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
To them, they're making a bunch of money, and mostly through Steam, and they don't see a big problem with taking risks or changing anything about like what they've done. So it's just a there's no competition for Valve. Like they need to have a fire lit under their ass in order for something to go down.
I was gonna say Epic Games.
Well, I think didn't Gabe come out and he said something like, "We know what the public thinks of us."
Did he say
I think
that?
he made like a
that?
step, and he's like, "We're looking to change that or something like that."
I mean, he can talk all he wants.
Yeah, I know. It's like
That's
he
a
can
horrible
say that,
PR.
but
He should have just hired a PR guy at that point. Like, why even bother? Like,
it's like instead of just saying we know what people think of us and we're gonna change that, just change it. Like just make
change it.
good
Yes.
games.
Why
Like
talk
do
about it?
something.
Talk is cheap,
Yeah.
as they say.
Actions.
You know,
Kids,
I've heard that
actions.
before.
What?
Talk
Talk
is
is
cheap.
cheap. Talk is cheap. Actions are expensive. Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but
And that's not the same.
that's-
Yeah,
not
it's
the same
not.
thing, but-
Well, sure, whatever.
All right. Another way of saying it is you can talk the talk,
can you walk the
but
walk?
the yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. The fucking Epic Games, though, I was going to say they wanted to, because lighting a fire under their ass would actually mean that they need a competitor. Epic Games is trying to launch their own Steam-like platform, and they're trying to like integrate like all these different games. They're trying to buy publishing right. Like I think that's dope because that's
Well,
like, a
everyone's making their
competitor.
own Steam these
Right,
days.
yeah.
Like, there's what is it?
Is Green Man Gaming
Bethesda's launcher. I mean, I'm trying to think
Oh,
of like the
yeah.
names of them. Origin. I mean, everybody's
Yeah.
coming out with their own launcher.
And then Blizzard, they did like Call of Duty was exclusively on Blizzard's, right? I think so. Like
Yeah.
the new one that came out.
But the cool thing about launchers is that you can restrict your users from finding out anything about a game by not allowing them to leave reviews. That's really cool.
Oh.
And if I'm gonna give Valve any credit at all, it's that they still haven't done the thing that every other launcher is doing, which is removing the reviews.
Yeah.
Because if you're publishing your own games through your own platform, then why would you allow people to shit talk your own game? Right?
Other companies remove your reviews that don't even have that feature.
Yeah. You can't leave reviews for games on Epic's launcher, Origin's launcher, all of these Bethesda's launcher. There's no review section. Do you find that odd?
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of corruption in the game review department,
That's not really corrupt. It's just
not
kind of
corrupt,
like
But I mean, like, I was gonna say Total Biscuit. You guys know that YouTuber?
I knew him.
I mean,
You know him? R.I.P. Total Biscuit. Listen, huge.
I knew
fan
of
Total
him.
Biscuit.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Total Biscuit back in the day. I was
Of course.
a huge fanboy. Yeah.
Who
But the one thing I noticed was that certain games that he would play, he would say that the devs would email him and then be like, "Yo, we're gonna give you X amount of money, blah blah blah. Let me grease your palms, say this or that." But Total Biscuit had enough integrity to say "fuck off," right? And then he would go publicly bash and call out the company, which I feel like is the right response. But now there's a lot of people out there who might not have the same levels of integrity, but have a similar platform. Yeah, you know, something like that, and they probably just take deals. Like I don't know, like how to
Well, it's just
discern
like-
between paid reviews, I guess, and like you know.
that's like
Not
game
good.
review sites in general, right? Like you never know if these
IGN.
guys are just getting like paid off.
Exactly.
Because
I
it's like
think-
you see IGN, yeah, it's like 9 out of 10. It's like this game is actually garbage.
Well, that's why user reviews are so important because these people don't have any ulterior motives.
Right.
And that's why I think Steam is going to continue to be the best platform for as long as they keep doing that. Because whenever you're making a consumer decision, any smart buyer isn't going to just be like, oh, I'm going to buy this game without doing any research at all, especially when you're making like a purchase of like $60.
You're gonna want to look into
So you're going to
it.
want to look into it. And whenever you're looking at the Steam store page, you can easily scroll down and see what people are saying about it. I do that for every single game that I try and buy on Steam because it's extremely helpful, and people are extremely helpful, and the best ones get voted to the top.
Yeah.
Even if they're negative, they leave a little review saying this was helpful or I agree, and it's like it's a really good way to gauge what the game's state is, even if it's not necessary. Even if it's historically been a bad game, like if it launched bad, for instance, and then they come back and it's been improved, that'll show in the thing. It says like recent reviews say that it's good, but like overall reviews are this, or the opposite, where like, oh, they released a patch to this game that completely ruined it. Like the reviews are mixed right now or bad.
Nice,
It's super useful.
Yeah.
And that whole system makes the consumer like process so much easier, and it almost kind of avoids frustration for a majority of people, because there's unlucky people who already own that kind of game, and then they find out the hard way. They fucking paid $60 for a game and it turned out to be shitty.
Right.
So like whenever you go onto those pages and you get to kind of get an idea of like, oh, should I buy this game or not, and like skip the frustration part and like just kind of come back at a later date, maybe they fixed it. That is so like it's so useful, and they do that on every game, including the games that they've published, which is respectable. They know that that's it's better to be secondhand disappointed than to be firsthand disappointed, I guess. Wasting money and then finding out that it's bad over finding out through other people that it's bad right now, but maybe you'll come back and buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine all the people who buy games on other launchers that don't know that the game's shitty until they find out firsthand.
That premise,
but at the same time, isn't it like just your responsibility as a consumer to research what you're going to buy?
Sure, but
you're being not misled, but like you're not getting the full like.
Is there not like a
details on what you're
website
getting.
that has user reviews on it? Like basically like Steam,
Metacritic,
but
right?
well, Metacritic just takes
wrote
reviews from all like the review websites, right?
Yeah.
I thought there's like Rotten
It's like
Tomato
it is
where
like the Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes takes reviews from professional critics.
Okay.
But no, that's a good way to bring it up, or that's a good thing to bring up, because if you're in a situation where there's no reviews from users available to you, you're going to go to the next best option, which is go to IGN. And like you were saying, who knows if they were paid off?
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of their way of locking down criticism. And I think that that's really bad.
That's dangerous. You're censoring pretty much like the truth.
You're censoring. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like it's their own little way. I think. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of these companies are making their own browsers and then not making reviews available. And here's a really good example: Netflix. Netflix used to. This was back when Netflix only hosted other people's content. They took movies that they didn't fund or movies that they didn't have any stake in, and they just hosted their movies, or they just made them available to rent or whatever. Back when you could get them in the mail, you know.
Back in the day.
But they have since not only gotten rid of the 5-star thing, so you can't even leave like kind of
rating.
like a specific rating, like this is this rating, and then you can go and see what other people have rated something like, oh, a 2-star movie like versus like a 3-star movie like versus a 5-star movie. Like those are all different things you can base your decisions off of. But now it's like thumbs up, thumbs down.
That's all it is.
Which is just
you can't even tell.
That must be like pretty recent then, right?
No, that was I think that was about two years ago, but relatively recently, like I think less than a year ago even, they removed the review section altogether.
Yeah.
So you used to be able to leave physical reviews, like write out a review.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I actually used to go and read those all the time, because it's like, I'm going to dedicate an hour to this.
You want to
Is
do
it
worth
good?
your time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, after they got rid of the 5-star review thing, or then it was just thumbs up, thumbs down, and you couldn't see what other people have rated thumbs up or thumbs down. The thumbs up, thumbs down thing is just there for you and the algorithm to decide like what it should recommend to you. It has nothing to do, like you can't see the like to dislike ratio on shit.
That'd be like if you went to Amazon and there weren't any.
And there weren't any. No, seriously, that's a perfect
That's a good
comparison.
yeah.
Imagine
That's
if
crazy.
Amazon removed all the reviews. And here's the thing: is that unfortunately, I can see that happening if Amazon starts producing the majority of the stuff that's available on Amazon. And the reason why I think Netflix has removed the review section is because they've started to self-fund most of the stuff that they put on Netflix, like Stranger Things. Like these are all hit shows that Netflix has an actual investment in.
Right.
And so they care very much if these do well or not because it's going to sell their product. So they have to. It really just makes me upset. Like, it doesn't make any sense why you would. I mean, it makes sense from like a scumbag point of view, but it just doesn't make any sense for the consumer. And I think that it's just another example of like these big companies who like are just showing their true colors. They literally just care about their quarterly returns, and they have no. They don't give a shit about like whether people are enjoying these games. They just care if you spent money on it.
Yeah.
It's just censorship, man.
Because they know that on average, like if you don't like a game, most people don't take the time to return those games. And especially with, I mean, and it even sucks even more, I think, with Netflix, because if you don't know if you're gonna like a movie or not before you watch it, then you just wasted time. It's just like literally wasting time. I don't know. It really frustrates me, and if I had a platform available to me for me to like make this rant, then I would, but I don't. I've even considered making a completely different channel just to upload that video, because I know that my TF2 audience would give a shit about what I have to think about, like just ratings. I mean, it's just it's a rant about like how you should allow your customers to review your product in a public space so that everyone can see how the product is, like, and what people's gripes are with it, see the extreme end of both. Because like I've seen games have like an equal amount of good and bad reviews. Like it's 50-50 generally. And I read the reviews that are good, and I see patterns in those good reviews where they're just like, oh, he liked this, and this about the game. Does that reflect what I would like about a game? And then I read the bad reviews, and it's all stuff that I don't really care about. Then that's going to influence my decision. Hey, maybe I would like this game, because all of the good stuff about it is stuff that I'll enjoy, and all the bad stuff that people are complaining about is stuff that I don't really care about. You could even flip that around and say like, oh, the stuff that people are complaining about is stuff that I care about, and so I'm less likely to buy it. It just, I don't know, it influences like not only the buying process, but it also just influences like the community. Like it influences so much stuff that you don't even consider. And then these people who are in charge of the decision, where they're just like, well, our stats show that if people are able to read negative comments about our game, then they won't buy it and be disappointed later and forget to refund it, and haha, we got their $60 anyway, so fuck them. You know what I mean? It's just really, it's scumbag level marketing shit that I'm sure some soulless guy that they hired from a marketing like agency told them to do, and they're just like, okay, sounds good.
No, you're right. Okay, that rant, by the way, is amazing, because that it's true. Like everything you said is like real. But one of the most scummier things, the scummier things I feel. Okay, that's scummy. Don't get me wrong. That's scummy as fuck. But an even more scummier thing I've noticed. This happens on a local level too. If you look at Yelp reviews, I'm talking like small, right? We'll start small. These restaurant owners just delete the ability to delete shit and then go in and pose as a customer and be like, yo, my steak is bomb. You gotta come drive 10 miles to come
driving up the reviews and stuff. And
you see that in gaming too. Like that's what I said earlier about the 12 biscuit. It's like you don't know if some guy is talking up this game because he got an under table deal, or if he genuinely likes it. It's like, how do you even tell nowadays? And people don't disclose.
And I think that you should always be getting second opinions on everything that you're looking into, of course. But you know, it's just so convenient to scroll down and see multiple people complaining or giving raving reviews about a game. And it influences people's decisions, and it makes their gaming experience so much better, I think.
I think like the thing is about a review system is the reviews really only affect the bad games. Not like 100%, but for the most part, if I'm gonna go buy a game and the reviews are bad, that's gonna turn me off. But if I go to a game, if it's a good game and I see good reviews, it's like, I'm gonna buy it. But most of the time, I was gonna buy it anyway. So like, if you put out a bad game, the negative reviews are gonna turn people off. But if you put out a good game, like the reviews don't really matter because it's.
But do you think, okay, so what if you were going to buy the game anyway and there's a bunch of bad reviews?
Right, so that would turn me off, I guess.
Yeah.
Right, that's what he's saying, because you can.
But you don't think you would just, That's what you're right. It might affect someone who is either on the fence or not sure about a game.
Yeah. Basically, reviews just affect whether a person. I don't know. I'm just saying it affects. It makes people not buy games more than often than it makes people buy games.
Yeah, but that's important. That's what I was saying. Is that it's important to not buy a game that you don't think is good, or that most people are saying aren't good.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like it's one thing to see, like for example, like with a YouTube video, it's one thing to see the like to dislike ratio on a video, but it's another thing to read the comments.
Right.
Because if you read if you watch a video and you see the like to dislike ratio, you're like, oh, my interpretation is that people didn't like this video.
Yeah.
And that's as far as it gets.
Yeah.
Right? But if you scroll in and read the comments, you can see exactly why people don't like it. Or you can see like jokes that are being made about the video and you're like, I have way more context for what this video is being, or like why this video is being interpreted the way that it is. So I feel like if you just hear like the basics from people, like, oh, that game's bad, that game's not good or whatever, and that's all they give you, then you might still be a little bit on the fence, because who knows, like, you didn't get any specifics.
Right.
So you might be like, oh, I might buy it. But if you get people's individual stories about a game, then that I don't know, it just gives you a way easier chance to evaluate what you want to do about your purchase.
Because like with Fallout 76, right? Everybody says it's bad,
Exactly.
but for you enjoy the game. So it's like. You
And what's
might go
funny
see
is
the
that
reviews.
if Bethesda's launcher had reviews on it, then I guarantee you a lot of them would be negative. But a lot of people that I've seen complain about that game list the negatives as stuff that I don't really care about. Like they say like, oh, it's not a traditional Fallout game. Like the story, it like. I hate how I have to interact with people, which is hilarious to me, because it's like, why did you buy a multiplayer game if you don't want to interact with people?
An MMO, right?
Yeah, exactly. I bought this MMO and there's people in it. What the hell? And so, like, if I were to read those kind of comments underneath the game, I'd be like, oh, that stuff doesn't bother me. Like, and then I read a positive review and it's like, I like this, this, and this, and this. And I was like, oh yeah, that's all stuff that I like.
That's a good point.
It just gives me like an idea of like what exactly are people saying about this game that I care about, and stuff like that. Like it's
like, plus if you censor it, because it goes back to what both of you were saying. It's like I said earlier too. Like I never even played Fallout 76, but I was on the hate train just because everyone else fucking hated it. And I understand that it's like a mob mentality thing. But when you're censoring shit like a scumbag, and you're like, I don't want anyone to see like anything negative, I think it works against you too. Because if someone finds like some negative things, like you were saying, some things that you don't care about, or people what they find negative, they can turn the narrative and make that much bigger issue than it actually is. But if you had opened up reviews in the first place, people can explain like, okay, this is how I feel, but it's not that big of a deal. Like, you know,
and your opinion was probably swayed by what I like to call, or I don't even have a name for it really. It's basically just let's gang up on this game because it's the hotness, and it's basically like, oh, this is the trend, let's hop on it.
Right.
I truly do believe that while that game deserves a lot of criticism because the launch was not very good, like even by Bethesda standards, it was pretty messy.
Right.
But it definitely got out of control.
Yeah.
Like there were definitely things about the game that were positive, and there were people making there were a large amount of people making complaints about the game that made no sense. Like for example, people complaining about. Well, no, it's people who get in the game and they're like, I hate how people walk up to me and talk to me. It's like, dude, like, do you understand like the point of the game? Like, it's a multiplayer Fallout game, and they go into it with this idea like, oh, it's just the next Fallout. But even from the very beginning, Todd Howard himself said this is a completely different project.
Yeah,
it's Fallout, but with a twist. And if you don't like that twist, then don't play it. And I think that is where it should have stopped. But instead, everybody was like, oh, there's money and views in this. Let's cash in. You know what I mean? It happens with games. It happened with No Man's Sky. It happened with
No Man's Sky's notorious for that.
Of course, like I'm positive that there were decent things about that game at launch, but there's no denying that it had a bad launch.
The game's kind of cool looking right now. Actually, I saw some.
They did a lot. They did a lot of turnaround. They did a lot of cleaning house. They listened to their fans. They listened to the community. And so far, I see Bethesda doing that. As far as I can tell, it's still a little rocky. But I mean, if you give Bethesda the benefit of the doubt in that they've never made a game like this before, like people might be able to give them a little bit more slack, but at the same time, it's the internet. They're not going to give you any slack. They're gonna rip you apart.
It's a mob mentality thing.
I mean,
starts,
I think they'll they'll work into it. Like they had to kind of learn the hard way that they're not supposed to leave changes out of the patch notes because they did that one patch, and it was a little awkward.
But like, how
The
do you
Reddit's like,
justify that?
yeah, you didn't list this change in the patch notes. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and then, you know, from that point on, they start, and then, you know, the whole thing with like, oh, in patch notes, you're supposed to explain why you did this. Like, that's just like a current year kind of thing that you're supposed to be doing.
That's an every year kind of thing.
That's another
Like, everyone
thing.
should be
Like going back to Nintendo with their patch notes.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't talk about anything?
They
actually did. With
yeah,
the
they're
last
starting to
update,
learn. Yeah.
But previously, like with Smash, they'd go in and they'd say various gameplay fixes.
That's it. Dude, that's like my app description. When you go to update an app, that's what they say in the app update. They're like,
yeah.
That's
Quality
so,
of life changes.
Yeah.
Well,
But that's the thing is that like, that's why people criticize things. That's why people speak up. That's why you gotta have you gotta give people a voice.
Yeah.
So you can learn.
If you don't give people a voice, they'll mob on you.
Well, if you don't give people a
like
voice,
that
then
too.
you'll never improve because
that
you don't
too.
know what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, it just means like you just don't care. All you care about is just like making the money.
I
'Cause
think
it's
it's
like if you don't take that criticism and you don't want to change your game and make a good game, like that's what it comes down
I
to.
mean, I will say, we talked about this earlier, it's like creating for yourself as opposed to, what was the last topic? Before that, do you remember? Jesus Christ. All right, let me think about this.
We were just going on
wait.
tangents.
We were talking about quality of life changes and we were talking about reviews. And
Yeah, Nintendo. I mean, like that's a good example is Nintendo because they've learned from their mistakes, and that's because people complain about it and they hear them and they adapt. And
After
there are
like 4
certain
years, yeah.
there are
Okay, I
certain
knew what I was
companies,
gonna say.
but there are certain companies who can't take criticism well. They think to themselves, no. You guys, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You guys are stupid. We're going to do it our way, and that always backfires 100% of the time. So
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. On a similar scale, like YouTubers, all right? If we look at YouTube, content creators have this thing where they make content for themselves, and they're like, I don't care what the viewer wants, I'm gonna make it for me, which is I like that. It's
ideally,
like creative.
I think
like
that generally works out.
But the thing is, though, it's like at a certain point, if you like, some content creators are so into that ideology where they take it to an extreme and they start censoring their comment section because they feel like obviously everyone's content represents who they are, but I mean, like they take it so personally to the point where they're like censoring their entire comment section.
Well, that's a
taking
separate.
keywords out.
That's a separate like.
But I was saying, like,
problem.
for corporations like who make these games or these game companies,
Sure, yeah.
they probably feel the same way. It's like we created this product, we made it for us, we think it's dope, so we're not gonna have you like go in and slander it.
I don't know
Maybe
if
they feel
I don't know if it would be the game developer's decision to remove reviews from a.
Would it be marketing or I guess?
I think it would be like a higher up corporate decision. I think that literally it's a marketing guy saying like you're gonna make more money if you censor this.
yeah,
That's what it's my suspicion.
Right.
Because I don't think I think that for the most part, most game developers probably welcome criticism because they know that that's what improves their work. Like they probably learned that all
Good
through
game
school.
developers, good ones.
If good game developers who went to school like learned anything from school, it's that when your teacher grades your project and says you should have done this and this and this, that's how you learn. I mean, that's what school is, isn't it?
That's what life is.
No, I know, but school is preparing you for the thing that you want to do.
Right,
and if you go to like a game developer school or whatever, like that's what the process is, and that's what they're preparing you for is life, which is you make a project, then you get judged on it, and if you avoid that judgment, then you literally never improve. Like because I truly do believe that you just don't get better on your own. In a vacuum, you don't improve. Like you have to
gotta
have
show your stuff.
feedback. You know, you have to have people saying nice or bad, and then you're like, okay, so when you say nice, I keep doing the thing that I was doing, and when you say bad, I stop doing that and do something else.
I feel like some people don't like that though.
They don't because it makes them feel bad because I worked really hard on this thing, but like
So
you got to get over it.
They're
Like
so
it's an ego
sensitive.
thing. It's a part of. It's a part of like being mature, I think. You gotta be able to roll with the punches.
Isn't that like a bigger issue in just society at this point? Like everyone's so sensitive and stuff. Like in terms of like how they view things. Like if you view
Maybe
something opposite, like safe spaces. It's like they want to foster this attitude of like we don't want your negative. We just want to have our echo chamber.
Well, it's easier.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, the harsh reality of human culture is that we like things done easier, and
More efficiently, like just.
and for the most part, that's good. Especially with technology making menial tasks and stuff like that easier, and basically make it so we can focus on other shit. But when it comes to like just removing all hardship from your life. That's not how you grow up.
You need hardship to grow
You
up.
got to be bullied a little bit to grow up. I truly do believe that. I think that, I mean, not literally, but I mean, like, I think that you need to be, not like just out of nowhere, just someone says, fuck you. Like, that's not going to make you feel better.
Someone should face adversity in their life.
No, that's
you
what
need
I'm saying.
Adversity to overcome.
You need to have some sort of problem because I personally think that's where, I don't even know how you would define happiness, but that's what I would call happiness is solving a problem.
Okay.
And if you don't have any problems, then you don't have any happiness because like that's where if you want to get technical about it, that's where the dopamine comes from. Is whenever you overcome something, whenever it's the satisfaction in solving a problem, whether it be a problem that you don't like or a problem that you intentionally gave yourself, like a project or something. That's where your happiness comes from. Is from the satisfaction in completing that or overcoming some kind of issue that you were having. So if you intentionally put yourself in a safe space and never give yourself any problems, you're just going to be unhappy.
You don't grow. You're unhappy. You don't grow.
It's going to foster your unhappiness because you don't have anything to do. You're going to be essentially bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why people who don't have problems seek out problems, even if they're not realizing it. That's why people who have boring lives create the most drama because they're intentionally putting problems in their path to give themselves temporary happiness.
They take comfort in that, the overcoming it. They create the thing that they want to overcome.
I believe that's what I believe. I'm not saying that from any sort of authority.
No,
this is I'm not a
Right.
psychologist or anything. This is just stuff that I believe. I've heard. I mean, there's a book I was recommended. Actually, I think Lazy Purple recommended me this book.
Okay.
He said it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a very popular
My
book.
sister recommended that to me too.
It's a very popular book, and I actually haven't read it all the way through. But with all these self-help books, I've found that the gist is in the first 2 chapters, and then the rest is just repeating the same thing in different ways. But the gist is basically that, where it's just like problems are good. Embrace them. Have fun with them, as much as you can, and just remember that if by the time that you overcome this problem, that's where your happiness is going to generate, and that's where you're going to be satisfied with it.
And by like problem, you're not always saying that like it's always something that's gonna be like bad, right? It's
No,
like a
no.
challenge.
A
Right?
challenge.
Yeah.
I say problem, but I mean challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. So we've met through YouTube, and we've done YouTube for years. We've been huge fans of the site and content creators for a long time. So like in your guys' YouTube career, did you guys face any sort of like adversity or challenge that you had to like personally overcome? Or is there like anything that you guys have went through?
I think anything I've faced has been like self-imposed. Like
Of course, yeah.
saying I want to do this, and then it's challenging for me to do that. But I mean, I don't feel like I ever faced any adversity with like commenters or
Oh yeah.
like I never got any hate or anything like that I felt I had to overcome.
What do you mean by commoner?
Commenter, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
When
All
you
right.
said commenter, I legit thought you meant like the.
I was just like,
sentence.
wait,
I'm
I was like, what do you?
like that's.
When I said that, I was like, I heard it and I was like, I thought you guys knew what I meant. Commenter.
No, I get it now. It makes a lot more sense. I
yeah.
was just like commoner. That's like what that's what
You know,
kings are
those
supposed to.
lowly commoners.
You should just call them peasants. You call them
Exactly.
commoners.
That's what I thought you were. That's what I thought you meant. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. That's actually something that I've struggled with is just self-discipline. It's just because I've had. I don't know. I mean, most people have had jobs where they have deadlines.
boss who
They have
writes
bosses.
them.
They have people telling them where they need to be, what they should be doing.
It's
and
structured, bro.
It's structured.
just
It is
created-
structured.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Accountability.
I don't have as much conscientiousness as I should, and it's definitely something that I have been struggling growing into. But I think I've gotten a lot better than when I was first starting out.
Well, it's also tough, like when you're not forced to, you know, like when you have, when you're not trying to like struggle to make ends meet. Like if you're like, okay, I need to do this, or else I'm not gonna be able to pay rent.
Yes.
Then it's like
That's
obviously
Lighting a
driver.
fire under
Yeah.
your ass is a
and
great
maybe it's
thing.
not like being disciplined yourself because it's like outside influences, and I think discipline is like something that is you're imposing on yourself and saying I need to do this not because there's a deadline, but because I want to do it now.
It's
I
a
guess.
personality problem
Yeah.
for me. I'm admittedly way too comfortable with my life,
Yeah.
and like I'm not financially like struggling ever, even when I'm like relatively poor compared to a lot of
Right,
people.
yeah.
Right.
Because I don't spend money on anything, and I don't like I don't really care about being poor. Like I manage just fine. Like I've been poor basically my entire life, and that's all I've ever known. So it's not like I have this ideal of where I should be financially. So I don't even have like a monetary like goal. I'm not thinking to myself, I need to make like this amount of money like by this amount of time. The only time I ever think that is when I have bills to pay that I physically can't pay.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I wish that I had like some sort of drive like that, and I feel like I'm working up to it. I do feel like I've gotten better. Like I can vividly remember a time relatively recently where it was a lot worse, where I would just be like, yeah, I don't have to really do anything. Like, but so that's probably the biggest challenge for me. But like he said, it's self-imposed. It has nothing really to do with the system. It's just my own dumb brain.
Yeah, I feel it.
Yeah. But if you had something to answer that question that wasn't self-imposed, do you have anything like that?
I don't.
Do you struggle with like things that are a consequence of the system or a consequence of being in the position you are?
I don't know. That could be self-imposed too. You know what I'm saying? Because like I could be feeling like it is, but it might not be. But I used to feel like all the time, like the algorithm for YouTube used to favor certain kinds of videos in terms of like how it would show up and all of that, and the certain tags you had to put in, and the certain length, and then
you thought there was an answer and you didn't know it.
Yeah, and I figured like because my shit wasn't popping like the next man's, that it's YouTube's fault for me not being at the same place he's at or something. I used to think that way, but it's self-imposed at the same time too.
I think it's blame. I think you're shifting blame.
Shifting blame.
Yeah. And for the most, I mean, you might have something with the algorithm not favoring certain types of videos, but I think that thought process is generally associated with people who are like, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing.
Right.
It's the system. That's corrupt.
I mean, I feel because like I would take a week to make a video, and then I would drop it. It would do fine. Like it wasn't like I was getting low view counts, but it was like, I don't know. At a certain point, I'm like, if I'm taking a week to drop it, and this guy's not even taking nearly that amount of time, but he's getting like triple what whatever the revenue, views, whatever the profit was.
Yeah.
I used to look at that back in the day, and I used to go, this is a systematic issue. Which I don't think it is at all. I think maybe
back then it might have been, but these days I've noticed that the algorithm is relatively better than ever, to be honest.
It's way better now. Yeah,
I think so. I get recommended, like I was telling you earlier. I remember very vividly a time when all like 90% of my recommendations were shit.
Yeah,
it was just like stuff that like I had nothing to do with what I liked. And it was just like those fucking slime videos or like cutting a something with a hot knife. Like that hasn't really happened in a while. I think most of the time it recommends me videos from channels that I already watch that for videos that I haven't watched yet on their channel. Or related channels. Like I watch a lot of like learning channels, like science or like Vsauce like channels basically, and I discover new channels constantly through that recommended system now.
So it works,
I like it.
Algorithm got fixed.
Yep.
I feel like sometimes I go to my homepage and I don't even realize it's not my sub box because I'm like, oh yeah, wait for this person to put out a video.
It's very true. I find that too, and the consequence of that system, though, is that if you go and watch a video that you normally wouldn't watch, like just out of curiosity, or somebody, or you accidentally click on, like some My Little Pony video,
it's done. Your recommendation done.
Here's the trick, though. Pazer taught me this: is you go into your history and you delete that video from your history.
That's what you do.
Because it's all based off of your YouTube history.
And also sometimes like they'll recommend videos to you from somebody you don't want to see, and they have like that option, like I don't want to see videos from
Although
this
I've heard that you have to do that multiple times for it to actually take effect.
It doesn't work. Like I've tried that multiple times too. Like
and I've also heard from people that it straight up doesn't work. But for me, it's worked.
It's worked for me so far.
But for some channels, I noticed that I have to constantly tell it, no, stop.
Maybe because their tags are like in your other recommended tags too, and it keeps like
But the cool thing about YouTube, and I say cool sarcastically, is that they are super into this machine learning thing, and like I mean, we were talking about this earlier, how like it's a baby. Like,
it is a baby.
And so like you wouldn't yell at a baby for not knowing how to talk.
Yeah.
But you still are frustrated because this baby is in charge of everything.
Right.
But YouTube's in the back being like, no, wait. Like, it'll grow up. It'll learn, and then it'll eventually be a functioning adult. And you're like, yeah, but it sucks right now. It's fucking, it's a baby. It's drooling on the floor. It's giving me the wrong, like, it doesn't know what it's doing. But, like, you got to be patient. Like with all babies, you got to be patient because they're going to grow up and they're going to play Fortnite.
And plus, this baby runs a site for 5 billion people, nearly. Almost.
No, exactly. Like,
so it's got to be.
It's super.
It's got to grow up fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have time.
It's very
you know,
ambitious to implement such a like a risky, just like like we don't know what it's gonna do. How many people isn't YouTube literally the most popular site in the world?
No, it has to be by now.
I think
Like,
so.
let's put that on the most popular site in the world.
Google,
But hey, you gotta start somewhere.
Look, if I trust anyone
Right.
with
You gotta
that,
start somewhere. Start on YouTube, you know?
Yeah.
dude, if I trust anyone with that kind of technology, it's Google. Like, because they own YouTube, so like I feel. Listen,
Dude, Google's a corporation like any other.
I know,
like,
but they
what do
already
you?
have so much info on us.
They're
It's
like
like at
just
this
as bad
point,
as
it's
Facebook,
like
man.
they
Like-
probably already have millions of people's like.
There's no
face
probably.
IDs and
That's not
They
even, that's
definitely
not
do.
probably, yeah.
If I trust anyone to build an algorithm to help society, it's the dude that has society.
What is your opinion on privacy? Do you think that it's a human right?
I think it's a human right, but it's inevitable that privacy is not going to be private for much longer, right?
Yeah, but isn't that bad because you fundamentally believe that privacy is a human right?
Right, no, it is bad. I guess I'm jaded because in a way I feel like even if I want to stop it, there's so many like fucking scummy ways that like I don't even know about probably where they get your information and everything. And that's the thing. It's like I agree with you. I think fundamentally speaking, I think privacy is a human right. But it's like
You sign away that right as soon as you sign up for Facebook.
That's what I'm
or
saying
whatever.
is I think that
it's like what do you do?
I forget who said it, but there was somebody who put it very very clearly, which is any product that is free is not really free. You're paying with your information.
Exactly.
You're paying. You are the product.
Yeah, that's what
I
they
think
say.
that's the way
If
that
it's free,
You're the product.
you are the product.
Yeah.
And so
That's a
like,
good quote.
but the thing is, it's like that product is not necessarily like a requirement of living. Like you don't really need to use YouTube. You don't really need to use Facebook.
Right.
You definitely don't need to use Facebook.
Facebook's gotta go.
And so I think that while I do agree that privacy can be a human right, I think that if you truly want privacy and if you're going to want privacy in like the future, you're going to have to sacrifice opting out of convenience or opting out of
Society.
not society, but opting out of
The internet.
things that might be really convenient to use. I think that it's just going to be inevitable because it makes things so much easier for people. Because honestly, like I don't really mind giving Google my information because it makes it way easier for me to do everything.
It's like you said earlier, humans are like always looking for the easy way out.
And the thing is, it's
easier
like,
it is, the better.
and the thing is, there was this really great channel on YouTube that got banned for obvious reasons because it was borderline harassment, but it was still such a funny, but it was still such a funny concept to me. And I know that it was funny watching it, but it definitely wasn't funny for the people involved. It was a guy called, I think his name is Surveillance Man or video Surveillance Man.
Yeah.
And his whole gimmick was he would walk up to people in public. This is all in public, so it's all actually technically legal to do this. He would walk up to people and just film them
That's legal.
and not say anything.
Yeah.
That's legal.
If you're in a public space, you can take pictures, you can film.
But no one does that because it's rude, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But he would constantly walk up to people and film them and just not do anything. He would just put a camera in their face and literally, I mean, maybe he didn't include the people who didn't react, but literally every single person he filmed, and he made so many videos. Literally every single person he filmed freaked the fuck out. There were people who like would they would call the police. They would say they're gonna call the police. They were just like, get the fuck away from me. They were like, there were people who like physically assaulted him, like seriously, like basically chased him, like he had to run away from multiple people.
Yeah, you're provoking people. It's like some people look at that as provocation.
But in the comment, in the description of every video, I remember it was him basically saying like, you are under surveillance constantly. So if you don't like this, then wake up, because you are literally being recorded
that's-
every time you go into public.
It's not. That's technically the truth, right? But then, like, he's an asshole about the way he's going.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is I don't necessarily approve of being rude to people, but it was.
It's a good message.
You can find these videos on like Live Leak.
I
or
got
some
the
shit.
message across.
You got the
Yeah.
message across, yeah.
You can probably find these on like other video sites, but it was definitely. It was funny in like a jackass sort of way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see why that. Dude, okay, because that's the thing, right? The same thing with video surveillance. There's a website where you can go and you can look at every single public IP camera
Yeah.
across the country.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
There's a ton of them. You can go and look at like some pretty cool places. I've been on there. I've seen like Times Square and shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's cool.
I gotta check that shit out.
Yeah.
But it's creepy though at the same time. My point is that
Creepy, but I mean,
guy's
like,
point
you
too.
got to be aware that, like, in order to use services and going into public, especially like shopping malls where they have all this stuff, you're using a public service. So you're submitting, you're kind of giving up a little bit of privacy to do that.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that's been a system for a very long time, but now people are getting all upset because, like, oh, he knows my phone number. Like, and here's the thing is that, like, people, and I think that's what the surveillance man has taught me, is that people actually don't care until you literally put it in their face, and then they care.
If it impacts them, they start giving a fuck.
Well, if it becomes obvious to them, because it's not obvious to people when they go out in public that they're being recorded all the time. When you walk up to any or if you walk up to any self-help register these days, there's literally a camera of you and your and you can see yourself, and you're like, oh god, I look kind of fat. but
That's always like you're always looking like, man, I don't look good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
oh,
you
shit.
don't even think about like,
exactly.
what it actually is.
Walk out
But
the
that's
store,
happening constantly, and you would be way more self-aware of what you're doing if you knew that you were being recorded all the time. And that's basically a big metaphor for like every time you go online, like you're being your actions are being recorded,
Constantly monitored.
especially if you're using like Google Chrome, like every website you visit that's being recorded. It's being written down by the web. Like they're literally monitoring everything you do. But you get to use this.
Look, where it crosses the line for me is because I believe human rights should be updated depending on the state of society, right? Because like in the same breath, I believe that Wi-Fi, the internet should be a human right because I personally.
I'm not stopping. I didn't.
No, because I was stopping myself.
You're like,
I was stopping myself mentally because mentally I'm like, wait, that doesn't sound right. But then okay, look, the way I'm trying to justify that is because the internet is the world at this point. If that shit if the internet shuts off in the next 24 hours, we're fucked. Like the world is gonna.
The world runs on the internet, basically, right?
It's a human right. You need that. But in the same thing, it's like when you look at surveillance, I don't mind if I'm constantly being monitored. I think the issue comes up when the people that are monitoring me are selling my shit to the FBI or these other, because the government
to the authorities specifically.
No, okay,
or
like
no, I'm curious because
in my mind I'm thinking like a dystopian Orwellian world.
No, that's what everybody jumps to.
It's where I jump to, but I think realistically, it's like if, for example, a government like look at Saudi Arabia, look at China, look at all these places where they mass monitor the fuck out of like every person.
China especially, yeah.
China especially. So it's like in China, dude, if you go against the government on any issue or anything, like, they know they ID you because they have you imprinted into their system, and they can just pull you out of your life and just disappear. Like crazy shit can happen when you allow the wrong people to have the power. I'm not saying the power itself is bad. You need with great power comes great responsibility. So I'm not saying the power itself is bad. It could be used for good. I just don't. I think the line crosses when the integrity of that information becomes spoiled. You start selling that shit. You start giving like
selling it to the wrong people. Maybe
Amazon with the facial recognition, they signed a deal. I think they went through with it, some $200 million something CIA deal where they were gonna sell them facial recognition.
Amazon?
From
what? Where are they getting your face?
I gotta
hack my webcam.
I don't think. Maybe it might be facial recognition. He has some software. Like
I see. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He has
they
some
developed
software.
something separately.
And plus, Amazon has way more information, like on a lot of people. So the facial recognition and all that, it's like
So they know all the stuff I buy, so they can just.
So what's the good? Because you're saying I'm okay with it if like the right people have it. So like what are the benefits for you for giving up your privacy?
If there is, I think because it goes to it's a cause greater than one man. So if, for example, we have a tribe of 1,000 people, right? So we have surveillance for all 1,000 people, right? Mm-hmm. You know where everyone's at, what everyone's doing. With the wrong power, person with the power, they can abuse that shit and pull you out, do crazy shit. Yeah. But if we're gonna use it for good, you can spot the guy that's doing some fuck shit. Like if he's out there hurting people, if he's out there doing anything illegal and he's like causing controversy, not controversy, that could
well, that's
rights, but yeah. The point I'm trying to get at is if someone's violent, they're converting people and all this crazy stuff happening, we've got to be able to ID these guys and go like, yo, that guy did something bad. We gotta, you know what I mean? It's a good way.
You're saying it's like a safety concern, like to catch criminals.
That's one, I would assume.
But here's the thing: is that like you said, it depends on who's in charge. Because if the wrong person is in charge, the person that's making that line, because if you make the line the law, then fair game. Like, and people always say like, I don't care if they surveil me. Like, I ain't got nothing to hide. You know what I'm saying? Like. So while that is true, it's not necessarily a good thing because if it all depends on who's in charge of where that line is.
That's what I'm saying, right?
So if that person is just like, okay, so if you break the law, then we'll arrest you because we know that you broke the law because we literally know everything about you and you broke the law, you're going to jail. That makes sense. Sure, that's an example of it being used for good. An example of it being used for bad is when the person in charge says, okay, not only are we going to be arresting people who are breaking the law, but people who disagree with us. And that's where China is taking it too far.
Like
you know what I'm saying?
Like I said, it could go either way.
But that's because China's being they're being led by corrupt people, unfortunately. And there's gonna be corruption in any
situation.
I'm gonna bring this into a different related subject, but it's a good jumping off point because I've asked a few people this question, and I think that it's really interesting, like thought experiment. And we were talking about like futurism earlier, and I think that it's kind of a big part of that. Yeah. What do you think about the concept of the leader of our country being an artificial intelligence that's developed for the sole purpose of leading a country? What do you think about that concept?
It goes back to the privacy thing because it's like who has the power to
code
that fucking software, the AI.
I know, but they code it to be like that.
But someone has to code is what I'm saying. Like that guy can.
I know, but what if that guy? What if they? I don't know. What if the guy that they get to code it doesn't put any sort of morals into it? It just develops the machine doesn't have any morals. It's not a person. It just makes decisions for the country based on what it believes is the best thing.
Okay, I get
like it does calculations thinking, okay, so if we put this amount of money into this,
it's all empirical data.
It has nothing
opinion-based stuff.
Well, also it takes like public opinion into account, like in a split second, like it takes like a bunch of stuff into account and like applies that and tries to only I guess the goal of it would be to replicate it would make the perfect unbiased human who has no ability to be bribed, has no ulterior motive, doesn't have a childhood to make it think, this happened in my childhood, so I'm going to approach this problem this way. All that stuff comes into account when humans make decisions.
Of course, yeah.
But if we were to make, and this is like way down the line, if we were to make some sort of software that could lead the country, quote unquote, perfectly, would you feel comfortable with that?
I think, well, from my understanding with like software, the thing, if you're saying in the future, it's hard to say what's going to happen, but like with software, it's usually like black and white. And human issues aren't black and white. That's the problem.
No, I know, but that's just how software is generally these days.
Right.
So my only problem is this, right? So you're saying some guy coded. There's obviously a team, someone, I don't know.
Who knows? Because maybe...
Well, in your scenario...
But we're already making machines that can code.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but there's always a human input that creates everything. So I guess what I'm
from the beginning, sure.
From the beginning, but what I'm trying to get at is if someone does develop this like this like presidential robot, I guess, for lack of a better word.
A robot president.
A robot president, right?
It's the title of my next movie.
There you go.
I'm into it. I'm there.
No.
It's a comedy adventure film.
I like the concept, but I truly believe that if that ever ends up happening, it would go downhill so fucking fast. For two reasons. One is the morality thing, the black and white thing, because I think what makes humanity successful and so great is because incredible minds come into play, and these minds are fostered by their experiences that they've had. So if you just like have something that's designed to look at empirical data but not at humanity, then you fail to kind of recognize the reality of a lot of people. And I think when you have someone like Obama, I'm not saying Obama, whatever, I'm just saying like a president who has a history in life, you can kind of like, there's humanity in that. Like in a way, people can, but the other thing is that you can hack this shit. Like, you get in there, you hack it.
That's a good point. No one. What's ironic is that no one's actually brought that up yet.
I was just thinking that.
Just hack it.
I've asked like 5 people that no one ever brings. Oh, they're gonna hack it.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good point.
Somebody could hack it and force their agenda. But also, another thing is like, who puts it in charge? Do we elect the robot president? It's elected.
It's elected.
So the people chose this.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, would you vote for the robot president?
I don't think I'd vote for the robot.
But it's the perfect president.
Is it like robot president versus Trump? Because it's like
I guess it's the best of. It's the what is it? The best of two evils, or however people justified that one.
I mean, I'd vote for president or a robot right now.
In 2016, right? I don't know how real this is. You guys probably heard about this shit. The Russian hacking the elections, the election. I don't know how real that is, but if you kind of look at the trend of history in America for presidents, people who didn't even win the vote got into office. Like Reagan was
the popular vote. You're saying.
The popular vote and the regular vote are completely different, which is why I have a huge problem with the electoral college system. But I mean,
right? But the Russian hacking, that's what I'm trying to get to. If I don't know how real that is, but if it is real and they did compromise it, right? Yeah. What's to say that Russia can't just compromise the?
Yeah, you're right.
Or China.
In a perfect world, that wouldn't happen, or it would not affect. Like people would understand that. Oh, the robot's suggesting we should kill all the Jews now, so obviously something's gone wrong. Yeah.
It'd be smaller though. It'd be like it would build up to it. Like they'd have to train the population to be okay.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if not.
Oh.
I guess. Sorry.
Oh, did that just happen?
Yeah, I just saw it.
Okay. That's good. We didn't go too far.
Yeah. I don't think that it's just going to be like, oh, 1 year there's going to be a robot president up for election. I think that over time it'll slowly become the president is maybe his advisor is like an AI, like or like his advisor comes to him and be like, we put this all into a simulation. Like if you make this decision, this is the most likely outcome. If you make this decision, this is the most likely outcome. So it just gives you more information based on what it thinks is going to happen. And over time, it'll evolve into we should just let it run the country.
So
you know what I mean?
Is the robot president? Is it like a humanoid robot, or is it just like it's just like a machine?
It's a machine. It doesn't have a personality.
It
doesn't need one.
It's like it can. It's like a cabinet, just like a robot cabinet, and it just tells you like.
No, the cabinet is literally the cabinet. The president is its own separate thing. You know how the government works?
No.
There's a cabinet and there's a.
No, I mean like cabinet isn't like when you say robot president without a personality. The first thought that came to my mind was like back in the day supercomputer.
You go into the Oval Office and there's just a tower.
That's what I'm thinking. Like is this your gaming PC tower and that's like a.
I don't know what it would look like.
That's what I'm trying.
But that's the thing is that I think that. If the people who create this, if there was going to be a robot president, the people who created it would probably have to give it a physical appearance because you can't just be like, yeah, it's just on the PC over there.
That's the president.
The president's just on that PC.
Do robots?
We can put it on a hard drive if you want and just move it to a different PC.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's essentially what it would be. But I think that in order to sell it to the general public,
you can't have a skin color.
They would have to humanize it, and they might even have to give it a fake personality, even though that personality doesn't come into play.
Make it relatable, you know.
Exactly. Like in order to get it voted into office, they would have to give it a personality. And and here's the thing is that
can't pander. That's the
no, but here's what I think.
Like
but here's the best thing is that they probably here's what that robot president would do. He'd take all of the presidents. He'd take all 50 of the presidents. This is going to be the 50th president, by the way. The 50th president is going to be a robot. He'd be like, okay, all of the past 49 presidents. Let's take an index of all their beliefs and all their personality. Now let's take the general public's opinion on all of those presidents. Take the top 5. Put all of those those presidents' best qualities into my personality, that's my personality. It generates a personality based on like what it thinks would be the most successful.
Now let me tell you. So the problem with that might be is one thinking, right?
Yeah.
If you go back in time, when Andrew Jackson was president, that guy was known to.
He was a slave owner.
Yeah. So and you know he was mass genociding all these.
Is he on the?
He's on the 20.
Is he on the Mount Rushmore?
Is he?
Mount Rushmore is Washington, Jefferson, Abe, and Roosevelt, Theodore.
Okay.
Roosevelt,
Gotcha.
that's OG. But yeah, no, I feel like back in the day when Andrew Jackson was president, he probably won the popular vote because most of America at the time strongly felt.
But you don't think that a robot would take all of this shit into account?
But that's what I'm saying. Between the best and the worst, the
Racism
best at that
good.
time is racism. That's why he won. So if he takes that, so I'm saying the times are different.
That's why
I know, but I think that the
takes
AI
into
would
account.
understand that. It's
There's
not going to
no
be like.
emotion, though. It's not a fucking person. How does it know if that's like bad or wrong?
No,
You could say
what I'm
racism
saying is
equal
personality. I'm not saying saying like their views.
Yeah.
I thought you were like.
Its
talking
views
about
are based.
political views.
It's political decisions or what it recommends as political decisions. Because when it comes down to it, the president actually doesn't make the decisions. It has to go past a committee. So of course it would go past a committee, and maybe that committee would be robots too. But I don't know.
We should make it all robots. Honestly,
When it gets to that point, are we going to allow robots to vote? Do they have voters' rights? Like when it gets there?
I don't know if this would be a world where they would even matter.
No citizen robots yet?
In this fake reality that I'm proposing, I don't. This is just a separate thing. Like,
Dude, what you said about like the advisor to the president running simulations to figure out.
yeah,
like,
that would
that's
happen.
smart.
That would
like a-
happen
that sounds like a
first.
movie.
That
I
sounds
know.
like
That's
it.
dope, though.
That
I like
honestly
that.
sounds like that might happen like within our
Oh
lifetime.
yeah, simulation. Yeah, the whole idea behind it.
Yeah, because it makes sense. It's like, oh, like this computer's only job is to try and calculate what the best decision would be. But I mean, a human's decision making is clouded by other shit. It's like, oh, I got bullied in the 3rd grade and they said this, so I don't want to do
Like,
that.
what's a decision though that you would like that the robot would?
Like, should we allocate like this money for the military or for schools? Like, that's such a basic decision, but like, but a person with like maybe a leaning towards the left would be like schools, and maybe a person with a leaning towards the right would be like military, right? But like, what about someone who's centered? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And ideally,
50-50.
and I think Obama was quoted as saying this is like the right and the left is ideal because it creates a balance.
And the center is where it's.
And the center is where it's at. It's like we have to have these people fighting over what is good so that we can come to the center compromise. But the robot already has the center compromise, and he's just trying to make a decision based on like, okay, so I don't have any sort of bias towards schools or bias towards the military. And people do, and it's. I mean, they do. They're just like, I like schools more than I like military, or it's the other way around. Like, but the robot doesn't care about any of that. He's just making a decision based on what would be best in the long run for the country, or the short term, or whatever he's trying to calculate it for. Like, I think that could work. I think that.
Yeah.
I mean,
because when you say in my mind, when you say simulation is automatically running, because the thing you said, whether it goes to schools or military, what if like the simulation that it creates is an exact like copy of America, the way it is, the way our country runs, right? America, for example, and then it takes all the people, simulates it within it, and then it simulates like taking the money and putting it into the school, like it runs like the course of.
And we live in that simulation, and this is a Black Mirror episode.
And then when you wake up, it's just all white.
It's all white.
You're in a mental hospital. None of this is fucking real. Now you're gonna win an Oscar.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, dude.
No, but I think that running a simulation of what would happen would probably be a good way for an AI or I keep saying AI, but it's more of a machine. It's not really it's an intelligence in the very raw sense. It has no like
What's
personality.
machine learning compared
Well, I
to
think,
AI?
like-
Is it the same thing?
It is basically that, but like what if our country was run on machine learning?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like what you're saying though, like you put something in for a simulation, and then people take those results and they're like, okay, well this is what this is saying. We should do this. Like that already happens, and people don't listen to the machine. Like you look and there's like 99% of scientists say that climate change is a thing, and like there are simulations that prove what will happen. But people are like, we don't care. Like,
but those people aren't the president. Well,
But
actually, that's not true.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But that's what I'm saying is like it's unfortunate because like it just so happens that small percentage of people who don't believe in climate change
happen
to be in charge also,
Right,
and that's bad.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
But like a machine is going to say, oh, 99% of scientists are saying that this is a thing, and I already did my own research and I already ran the simulation and it's true. Okay, we got to deal with it. Like that. I mean,
but like you said, it goes to like a committee, right? So it's
the
like,
decision
it still
goes through a human
people,
committee.
Right?
If it runs a simulation for like X amount of years, can it also just based on like previous voting, it can predict sort of like how that would like impact. Like say you take money, put it in schools, it could predict based on previous.
But at the end of the day, it's still be up to the people to listen, right?
Of course,
Like if they're still being paid off, it doesn't even matter.
You got to get the people to have enough trust in this robot president that it could just allow the robot president to run the life in the country without the people having like interfere.
I'm just saying
it would have to be.
I'm just saying no.
I'm saying I would trust a machine whose only purpose in life is to make the best decision possible over a person who maybe being paid off by some big company or like has ulterior motives or is racist. You know what I mean?
Who has access to the machine? Like in terms of like say it goes down or off and whatever. Like
I don't know. I don't know how to work engineer wise.
Doesn't
Like
know the details. Okay?
I'm saying, you're saying there's a concept of an engineer, but then that would compromise it because the dude who has access to it could be compromised, and then you could then compromise.
I know, but that would. I mean, like. If there's just, it would be corrupt if the guy's just like, guys, I'm gonna go see what the president said, and he goes in the room by himself and he comes out like, yeah, he said that. I mean, you should believe me. Like, yeah, that has potential for corruption, but I think that there's easy ways around that happening.
The president's messiah. He just walks. That's what.
The translator.
No, I think that if enough people had faith in the ability for machine learning to make the right decision, and I mean. We might get to that point someday. Then I think that people
we're already there, dude.
Most people
trust
would
their machines more than humans.
Yeah,
I mean they already do with like routes, right? Like Google makes the right decision.
Exactly. I trust Google Maps when it tells me where to go. Do you think that like
more than humans? Like if I ask you where to go, like am I going to trust you over Google Maps?
No, exactly.
You know?
Have you ever been listening to like Google Maps or whatever, and it's saying like take a left, and you're like, are you trying to like bullshit me or like no one thinks that?
No.
Because they
dad,
put their trust in the.
when my dad has a GPS, he never listens to it. He's like, you don't go that way, like that. I never go that way.
But that's he knows the route already.
Okay,
yeah, I see what you're saying. Like if you're in a place you've never at, and it tells you to go left, and you're like, well, that's not right. But
that's not right.
I mean, sometimes my GPS will be like, take this back road, but I'm thinking to myself, oh, he must have suggested that because of traffic or something, because they take that into account these days. And it's just another thing. It's like, oh, if I would have gone against it, then I might have found myself in traffic and been like, oh, I should have listened to the guy. The thing that's only purpose is to lead me in the correct direction.
I always tell my dad, I trust the satellite more than your brain sometimes when it comes to directions. It's a satellite.
Well, that's what it's built. That's what it's built for. But humans are not built to run countries. Some of them can do it. You know what I mean?
I don't even think some of them can do it.
It's like, what's the point of humans? You know, you're saying.
What's the point of humans?
No, we're getting into that.
This is the future. If
a robot's president, then why do we have anybody doing anything? Robots should just be doing everything. You know, like that's the most important job.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like we gotta the neural uploading thing is one thing, but we gotta transfer humanity to data and then put it in an android and just live through that shit. Because like, what's the point of the human form at the end of the day? Is to take care of this shit.
I think what you're getting into is the physical form, but I mean, human brains are imperfect, and that's what makes them human. But when it comes to making decisions about like the greater good of all humanity, like
you need heart.
After a while, I mean, like when you think about technology, the entire point of technology is to make it easier, more efficient. Like those are the two goals of technology.
Right.
More efficient and easier. Convenience, basically. And so whenever we get to the point where we can solve the problem of how do we make leadership more convenient and what was the other one?
Convenient.
Convenient. Sorry. Efficient. More efficient, more convenient. If we get to the technological point where we can make leadership, apply that to leadership, then I think we will.
I think certain things can't be expedited like that, though. Like certain things should just stay I guess like
I just don't think.
You think so?
I don't think humans are going to
I'm not
respect
saying everything. I'm saying certain things. Like,
Are we gonna be old men? Be like, man, I wish this country was run by a human. He would know what to do. You know what I mean?
no, maybe dude, honestly, like I'd be like a person with heart would have not done that.
Yeah.
But
I
mean,
it's
well,
like, I
like-
don't know, like.
in this situation, say like an alien comes from space and like this
Yeah.
alien was built, it was born
Yeah.
to run the government.
Right.
Like people aren't going to
Yeah.
buy into that. They're not going to be like,
No, but that's an
I'm buying
alien.
If he says smarter shit than this guy, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just put him on the stand.
But that's an alien.
Have him talk.
That has nothing to do.
but
I mean, like,
it's just as
we
far
don't
from
know.
a human as a computer.
I know, but we don't know that its purpose
It's
is
not
to.
as far as a human's computer. We don't even know what alien. We know what a computer looks like. We don't know what an alien looks like.
I'm not even
right?
talking about what it looks
And
like. I'm talking
saying
about
what
its
you said.
purpose. An alien comes and says, "My only purpose is to run civilizations." I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." But like, if a team of people who like were really smart, who were really good at coding and making like machine learning, and trained this robot over like 30 years
Yeah.
to be the best that it can be at leadership, then I would trust that. I'd
I'm
be
just
like, "You guys
saying-
worked
Dude,
really hard on this," and
E.T. can't just drop and then be like, "I'm gonna run America."
I'm just
like, what are
saying-
you
Nah,
talking
I don't really
about?
get that
Like,
comparison
Okay,
at all.
it was bad.
They're gonna kill
what
the
I was
alien
basically
first,
trying
though.
to
They're gonna
say
prison
is I don't
like-
think humans are ever going to be okay with something other than a human being the leader.
I see what you're saying. So
And the
I don't
alien is
know,
like
I
the
don't-
only thing I
a
can
furry
think
can't
of.
be a leader. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I'm just joking.
Well,
it's still
that's a
a
human.
I don't know.
yeah, I'm thinking
I mean,
about
to run it back to the privacy thing, it's like, do you think that people would be okay with giving up their personal information just so that they can go on the internet? Like,
Only if they.
when you
knew-
frame it like that, of course it sounds bad. Of course you assume that people wouldn't agree to do it. But whenever you think about the convenience of it, the ease that is involved, people are. I think that overall, what technology is teaching us is that people are completely willing to give up privacy and some basic human rights just to make their lives easier.
I feel you.
Do you think it comes down? I'm thinking like basically decision making, right? Like I don't like making decisions. So like when I look
No.
at Google or whatever, it makes the decision on how to go, right?
Yeah.
So like if
I
there
like
was something
making
that
decisions.
instead of you deciding what to
Free
eat,
will.
it's already chosen for you, would you be like, okay, I'm gonna eat that?
Nah, fuck that. That's
Because that's like
I need control.
telling you what to eat, right?
I need control.
But
So-
but
you-
what if
but
it's
you-
really smart and it's deciding what it thinks you're gonna like?
Then that could be.
That's
good.
what
Did you hear?
YouTube does.
No,
It
no, no.
decides
Here's
what
the
to
thing.
show you on YouTube.
It
We need to
decides what to
develop
show me,
that.
but at the end of the day, it's showing me for me to choose. Like it can't just be like, yo, like
Yeah.
you need to eat.
At the end of the day, you're still making the decision.
That's
And I'm
what I'm
not
saying.
saying
You
that the
need that-
robot president would be a tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying that he would be a president. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it still
yeah.
comes down to everybody agreeing, yeah, that's the right decision. Obviously, if the robot president makes some sort of calculation where it's just like, here's a problem. There's too many homeless people. Let's kill them. You know what I mean?
Mass
Of
extermination.
course, people will be like, no, of course that seems right on paper, you robot president, but that's not a good idea. Come up with something else. And it's like, okay, we'll come up with step 2, which is something maybe a little bit better than killing all the homeless
A
people.
little less stress.
Exactly.
simulation. Dude.
So
Like,
it's
I'm
a
telling
simulation,
you,
and it's going to come up with ideas, but I feel like most of them would be good if approached like unbiased. I think that's the most important thing about Robot President is that you're eliminating bias and human error.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So this is like kind of a heavier, different. It's similar. The thing is like religion versus science,
Yeah.
right? So it's this idea behind like philosophy versus like actual like hard information, right? So the thing is that I think you sort of need both in a way because I think I'm not saying religion. I mean like this idea behind philosophy, right? Like it's good to look in a futuristic world to having everything automated, having everything like easier, more efficient. I'm with you. The reason why I said earlier like I want certain things to not be expedited like that is because like certain human things like philosophy and stuff like that, you need to like I personally believe you need to go out and experience that shit. Like in terms of like relationships, maturity, like who you are as a person, like all of those are life experiences and philosophies that you can't expedite. Like you can't just make a machine for that shit. You need to like sort of live it. You need to experience it to gain more knowledge and information. But that's one part I feel like futurism doesn't exactly cover. Maybe like
Maybe.
I don't know.
It's
like,
I think that you have a good point about that, and it harkens back to what I said earlier about how like you can't improve as a person or gain happiness if you don't have problems in your life. And if all your problems are decided by saying, you know, hey, robot, what should I do? Like, and it just makes a decision for you. Like, is there really satisfaction in that? Or, I mean, like with real hard problems, like should I talk to my dad after like 10 years, or should I unplug my mom from the life support? Like shit, like just really deep shit. You're just like, I don't want to make this decision, and if I do make this decision, whatever happens will change me. It'll make me develop as a person, basically. So I can see that being a thing, but I think that's separate from robot president. I think that robot president is leadership, which isn't necessarily personal decision.
That's what I'm saying. Like leadership in and of itself is a philosophy. Like I feel like if you have a robot leader, like this is just me playing devil's advocate. Like I think robot leader is a cool idea, but
it's robot president.
Robot president. Yeah. I think it's a cool idea, but I'm just saying.
I just like the title robot president, and I think that we should just call it that, not give it a name. Just
robot president.
Yeah, robot president.
I like robot president, but I mean, I just play devil's advocate.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
you bring up a good point that
leadership is philosophy. I personally think like, how are you gonna have? So what he was saying earlier too. How as a human gonna allow a robot to become president when that robot doesn't even understand the human to begin with?
Yeah.
In a philosophical sense, like you can't hardwire philosophy into something.
We can't now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Anything's possible with, the way that the direction that technology is going. Maybe we can code something to have a philosophical heart.
That'd be dope. You code philosophy into.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's cool.
But I mean, it has so much access to all this information. It takes all of the best philosophical minds.
Who determines what's best and what's not, though? Like in philosophy, there's
the most influential, maybe, or it takes the most impactful, the ones that have done the best, the most good for. Obviously, it's not going to take.
Good and bad is also a thing. It's like who determines what's good and bad.
See, that's another good roadblock.
Philosophy is so abstract. It's hard to put it down on paper what it actually is.
Yeah.
And like when you're programming something, it's like true or false. Like how do you? It's just like there's so much gray area in philosophy that it's hard to like actually implement that into something.
Yeah. That's like pulling the plug on the mom.
On mom, I'd just be like, okay, Google. Do I pull the plug?
Because Google's gonna be like, do it, dummy. Like you're wasting money. Like do it. Like it's gonna look at empirical evidence. It's gonna be like, oh, you're.
But
it'll take
into account like your emotional maybe your emotional state.
It'll prescribe you a pill. Be like, yo, take this pill. You won't feel sad, and then just pull the plug. I'm just saying.
Who knows?
Pull the plug, save the money, take the pill.
Maybe that is the best decision, though. You know what I mean? Maybe that is.
To the robot, but to
the robot,
it could be like, I want to spend the last moments type thing. Like,
no, I agree. I agree with you that it should not be applied to everyday life. That it might you might run into some problems. I mean, like maybe deciding where to eat. That's not really a heavy decision, and maybe I don't know. You'd be surprised how many people are so like indecisive about where to eat. That could help.
That could help.
It'd be great if there's an app and you could ask it any question, make a decision, and it just tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Like
and then I just live.
They might be implementing that into Google at some point. Hey Google, what do I do?
In life, what's my
exactly.
What's my for?
Yeah.
Robot president.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, robot. Yeah, it's like I think you should
robot president.
Done.
But I think that my response to that is leadership and personal decisions are different planes of existence, and I think that robot president would be more helpful than robot assistant in your everyday life and what to do, because like I said, you can't really improve it as a person until you make bad decisions and learn from them. But at the same time, maybe having a president that makes bad decisions is good because we can learn from those.
But it deals with real people. Like
We've had plenty of.
That's the thing is that it's
thousands of people potentially.
Yeah, your bad decisions only affect you.
Yeah.
But the bad decisions of the leader affect millions upon millions of people.
Could do some damage.
He could, but he would learn from it.
That's true.
But what I'm saying
we would
is,
learn from it too. Like, that's what you're trying to get at. It's like everyone.
I mean, where do you think you'd rank robot president out of like the 48 or whatever we have?
What do you mean?
You think he'd hit like the top 5?
I think that he'd do really good.
You think he'd get up there?
He'd be the last president.
He'd be up there with like Roosevelt.
His approval rating would be like way above 50%.
We'd make room on Mount Rushmore for like an android head.
Dude, okay, wait. So would robot president? Would he? Okay, so say for example, like the whole country is like, fuck corporations, they shouldn't have all this wealth, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Is then robot president gonna do the Theodore Roosevelt thing, and go bust each corporation like, no, you can't have this money, blah blah blah? Is it gonna be like that sort of?
I don't know what decisions it's gonna make. It's gonna make decisions based on. I'm not robot president. But that's the thing is that like I'm a human. Whatever my answer is gonna be is based on what I think is morally the right decision based on my life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not programmed to be a president. I'm not really that great of a leader in general. So why are you asking me? You know what I mean?
Dude, someone's gotta make a movie.
That's
like
what I'm.
this.
That's what I'm saying. Is that
Something.
Robot President is the next big comedy adventure movie coming out in 2018 or 2019, starring. Who should it star as the Robot President voice?
Ooh, the voice is important.
think-
No.
Stephen Hawking. Yeah, no, I mean we can. I was thinking like Benedict Cumberbatch doing like a
That's
doing like a
cool.
monotone voice, but it's kind of deep. Like he has authority.
He can't be British though. So
Yeah, I was
he's
gonna say, it's
American
gonna mess
president.
No,
I'm
he's
not gonna
American
follow
president. He would
that.
do an American accent. He can do accents pretty well.
Yeah.
So,
I like that.
starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Robot President and his sidekick is Charlie Day.
So you're saying that the robot president's gonna be male? It's gonna be.
And the first lady, Jennifer.
Oh, you're
Lawrence.
right.
Come on. Hey.
Oh, and
No, the first robot president. The first robot
Also the
president
first
would
woman
also the
president.
first woman
Whoa.
president. That's right.
Yeah,
We're
that's
not
sick.
voting for a woman until 20 whatever. And
Can't LGBT
wouldn't
as
that
the robot
that would
president.
piss off every like hardcore feminist who's just like, we need a woman in the office. Like that would piss them all off. Be like the first,
Wait till you see what we have for you.
Right.
the first,
Roll it up.
the first woman president isn't even like a real
not even
woman.
human.
We just gave it a woman voice.
And there's a man engineering it too. That's
Oh no!
It's gonna be President Alexa, dude.
President
Yeah.
Alexa.
Yeah,
Amazon's gonna
President
drop it.
Alexa. That's funny. I don't know. It's such a fun thought experiment because it's like, are you comfortable with the idea of technology completely taking over like the decisions of the country? But at the same time, we don't know. We're just basing all of this off of what we know of technology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whenever we're thinking robot president, we're thinking YouTube algorithm. You know what I mean?
Right. The baby has grown up to a man. president,
Exactly.
a full
So
female man
at
president.
some point, that baby is going to grow up to like an old man, and he's going to be old enough to become president. I think the limit is 35. So
Born in the States,
once YouTube's
American.
algorithm becomes 35 years old, it'll be eligible to become president,
Right.
and
Wow.
we'll vote for YouTube's algorithm to be the president, and it'll recommend all of these really funny videos,
Yeah.
and also it'll recommend what to do with our budget.
Yeah.
You know?
We're looking like 2040.
2040.
2040.
2040?
Yeah.
Dude, I had a really funny thought where like I see like three presidents at the debate just like standing at the podium. One of them is just like a gaming masterpiece. He just like it's just voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch.
Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen? I think they had a robot compete in Jeopardy.
Really?
Yeah,
Let me see that.
and they just put a screen, like behind the podium.
sick.
Yeah.
It was so
cool.
it was really funny. But what's funny is that it actually won, of course, and they put it up against like what's that guy's name? Ken Jennings. The guy who like won a ton of money on Jeopardy that one time. Anyway, there was a guy. He's
Some
like the
master
he's like
player.
the superstar of winning Jeopardy.
Jeopardy.
Like he's
The
won.
RNG's
Yeah, he's like
victory.
won millions of dollars on that show. And then they had like the
That's crazy.
second guy who like is like second place, and they put him up against his name's Watson, and I think IBM developed
IBM,
him.
yeah.
So they put him up against him, and they lost, of course. But there were some moments where Watson would buzz in, and then he would answer way incorrectly. Like, and it would be really funny. The audience would laugh because it's just like, wait, what? Where did he come up with that answer? It's like, what is this is the capital of this country, and then you would buzz in and be like, bananas or some random
What is
word.
bananas?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what
Because
is
it just
bananas?
interpreted the sentence incorrectly and looked up the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's running our country.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that right now, when we think of that concept, we think of this imperfect machine who can only answer questions. But, I mean, maybe 30, 40 years from now, it'll get to the point where it can do the job pretty well. And I'm saying, and like I said, it wouldn't become the president overnight. It would first be.
It would have to win.
It would have to work up the. It would have to work up the
Right.
social ladder,
Right.
like everybody else. Like
that a
Obama was a senator before he was a president.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
robot senator.
Robot senator first.
And the sequel
That's
is
the
Robot-
prequel. That's the
That should be
prequel.
sick.
That's
Robot
fire,
senator.
yeah.
No, that's
a
like
good
the
idea.
sequel. That's like it comes after.
Yeah.
You
Well,
see the
it's a
origin
prequel.
story.
It's a prequel.
Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Robot President Origins. Robot President : Origins.
I like that.
Yeah,
That sounds sick.
that does sound
I'm
pretty
down.
cool.
I'm down.
I'm down, dude.
Put me down for 3.
Netflix is gonna make it a show. Watch it. After this Netflix. That
Yeah,
Netflix
what the
should
heck,
do it.
Netflix? You're taking all our ideas.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take one idea, bring the reviews back.
Wait, okay. So before we wrap this up, which we're gonna wrap up soon, I have one more thing. Right. So fake news. I saw somewhere on Reddit This might be fake news that I saw.
Okay.
Which is kind
Fake
of
news
ironic.
about
That's
fake
how
news,
fake
yeah.
news,
Yeah.
Well, it's multiple sites. Like I did a little bit of research on this. People talk about this. It's called deep link image creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this thing where you can literally recreate a person's entire like face, mannerisms, everything. Have them say whatever you want them to say, and you can like recreate it almost just in front of like a TV thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They experimented with this with Vladimir Putin. They had like a real video and then a deep link video, and it looks exactly the fucking same. It sounds exactly the same. And if for example someone wanted to troll and be like Vladimir Putin came on live TV and said we're going to war, World War III is about to start.
Yeah.
Technically, everyone would believe that.
Yeah.
That takes
At
fake
first.
news to like at
So
first,
it's like a fake
It
video.
could cause panic, basically.
Yeah, but I'm oh, yeah.
Where'd you go over here? My camera's always perfect.
Wait, where's the first?
You were wrapping it up, and you were
Oh,
saying,
yeah,
yeah,
you said
yeah,
you were saying let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So
So before we wrap it up, you were gonna talk about
the deep link.
the
thing.
deep link
link.
thing. Yeah. So
Basically fake news.
so
like,
it's no.
it's a realistic
Well, you say
shit.
fake news, but like you know what a deep fake is, right?
Deep fake. Yeah.
It's where they put famous actors' faces, like they map them to like porn actresses and stuff, so it looks like they're in a porn video, and it's a little wonky, but I mean like if
but
you
hey,
do
dude,
it
this
well,
still works for me, you know. Like,
yeah. Hey, but if
Standards are
if
low.
yeah, but if you do it like well enough, then you could totally pass off some random person that's impersonating a famous figure as being some random guy. But yeah,
What if they made Robot President, but he was just a fabricate, and they just showed him through the television, but he looked like a real dude?
oh yeah, they could like computer.
Yeah.
I'm sure like in 40 years, like computer graphics will be so good that like you won't be able to tell the difference between like a real human and
like
like
a
what is
3D
animated,
model.
like
Yeah.
a 3D animate. Yeah, they could like
crazy.
they could like 3D project like him onto a stage
He's like
and
a
stuff.
hologram.
He's like a holographic president.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
I mean, that
crazy.
makes it. I mean, around that time, yeah, that would make
We're
sense.
giving Netflix too much material.
We are really.
Alright,
We're giving
Yeah.
specifically Black Mirror.
yeah. There you go, that episode.
But to answer your question about like deep fakes and like that technology, I mean, like, yeah, that could be problematic for like trolling or like trying to start some shit that
Controversy.
trying to like I could see somebody like, you know, impersonating Donald Trump and he goes on, but I mean, like they're not going to be able to. They would have to hack into like these people's official accounts and then upload that video specifically to make it seem the most real. Because like, where are they going to upload?
Well, I mean,
that?
I'm not saying other people are gonna upload it.
But it'll be like,
Yeah, but I
I'm
mean,
saying,
like,
like, they
very
themselves.
few people would.
but like news
believe
outlets
it
and
if it-
stuff. News outlets like will get a fake tweet or something, and they'll talk about it. You know.
Yeah.
Like they don't research it.
No, but and I'm sure if that were to ever happen, that it would probably cause panic for a few hours, maybe.
Right.
But as soon as the real Vladimir Putin gets on TV and be like, "Dude, I didn't say any of that."
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is like, what if, like, this is just me, like, this is another movie scene idea I have. Right? Just
Yeah.
a movie-esque
Draw
idea.
all as a gold.
All right, I'm thinking like if there's a political figure who has a lot of influence and power, right?
Yeah.
You could. What if the dude gets kidnapped? The president, for example, I'm just going with
Robot president?
Robot president.
Not even the president's daughter, just the straight up president.
Straight up president. No, imagine, right? No, maybe that's
That's
what,
never happened.
No.
Maybe that's what lured him out, and then he got caught. Whatever method they got him. Right?
Sure, yeah.
Then you could just deep fake his face and then put it on his, official channel or whatever.
Oh, I see. So
And then because that guy, who's gonna come in and verify that? Is this,
That'd be, yeah.
that'd be a movie, all right.
That is a good move.
That doesn't sound like something that would happen in real life, though.
But it does sound like
might.
something that
The
happened.
president is under, like, every president has always been under such heavy protection.
It's an inside job.
It's-
I'm not saying president. I'm not saying
You're
president.
saying, like, somebody, like,
Let's take away president. What about senators? What about like just people? that
Yeah,
are in
like
the
people in
public,
power.
people
I
who
get
can
it.
Pulled, and then you could just like.
I
fake
could see
them.
that technology being used for nefarious ways, but I don't think that it'll be that big of a problem. I don't really see it
I'm
being that big
reaching
of a
with that
deal.
one, but I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that that's cool.
I mean, if robot president could happen,
that could. Yeah.
I'm not.
That's an origin story. You got kidnapped.
That's where he started here.
Whoa.
All right, guys. Well, it's time to wrap up RNG. What, episode 5? Episode 6? 5?
I thought you've been doing this for a lot longer.
Well, season 3.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Brand new season.
Devin's different
This
season.
is dope. Man.
You're
You
the
guys
first
are
guest
the
of season
first
3.
guest.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Oh.
This is cool. I like this.
Your first guest for RNG Live.
That's true.
That's
Is this
true.
how it's going to be from now on, or is this just a special episode because we're all in?
I'm actually gonna fly out here for every episode.
Every single week.
That sounds expensive, but
Once a week.
good on you.
Well, you know how much money we've been making from the show.
Oh yeah.
RNG is, whew,
Shout out to our
sponsorships.
sponsor, Robot President.
Yeah.
robot president.
Netflix just picked it up. So
Yeah,
we're
thank you,
set.
Netflix.
Bandersnatch just announced a brand, or not Bandersnatch, what is it? Black Mirror?
Black Mirror's Bandersnatch isn't that like a separate?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know anything
think
about
it's the
that.
same.
It's like an episode where you get to like pick what's going on. It's weird.
Wow. Choose your own adventure.
Choose your adventure Netflix show. Yeah.
Well,
That's
I want,
actually what this episode of the podcast is going to be.
what I want the...
Oh yeah.
the
What should we talk about this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the fans choosing your own adventure, I want you to choose a question topic that we talked about today. We talked about a lot of different topics today. But it'd be dope to get the fans to go choose like one thing that we talked about that might interest you.
Mhm.
Let us know. I feel like communication is
Sure.
necessary. Discussion.
And honestly,
People
I'll
gotta
read
say
these
it.
comments. What do you think about Robot President? Would you vote for him?
Yeah.
2040.
Yeah.
Would you watch Robot President, the movie, origin story?
Yeah.
You know?
Give it a thumbs up on Netflix, please.
Thumbs up on Netflix.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
We're out.
Thanks for watching.
Wave at it one time.
One time.